Okay. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Turpin. I'm the acting Senior Vice President for News, and it's my great honor to welcome here to NPR so many members of Chinita's family, Sarah, Eugene, and many, many friends of Chinita's. It's a great pleasure to have you here tonight for a celebration of Chinita's life. I suspect there's some sadness in people's hearts at this moment. But I suspect that in the next hour, we're also going to experience a lot of joy, because to know Chinita was to experience joy. She was one of those people who brought joy in her wake, and I suspect she's one of those people who will bring joy to her wake. I was lucky enough, just by coincidence, for the last couple of years that Chinita was at NPR. My office was just by where she sat, and I'd spend a couple of minutes, many days, having a quick conversation with her and finding all the gossip that had happened overnight, which invariably seemed to have a lot to do with the British royal family, which I think, knowing that I was English, I think she assumed I must have an abiding interest in. Not knowing that actually I'm a confirmed anti-monarchist that I never actually dare express to her. But we had many, many good times, and it was a pleasure to know her. There are many people who knew her better here tonight, many close friends, and I think with that, I'm going to say that I think this is wonderful, a wonderful occasion. I'm so happy that we're able to host it. And with that, I'm going to introduce Kenya Young, the executive producer of Morning Edition.
Thank you all so much for being here. It's a sad occasion, as Chris said, but a wonderful occasion to be able to see all those who love Chinita and to be able to come from all walks of life, her theater life, her work life, her family life. She touched so many people in so many areas. As many of you know, I was very close with Chinita. We worked closely together, and we're very close friends as well. But what a lot of people don't know is my very favorite story about Chinita, which is probably my very favorite story of my life, honestly. So when we first moved here, it was at 2009, and we were pretty brand new to the area, and my kids were in a program, an after-school program. They were only 2 and 4 then, very young, and we didn't know very many people, but I had a very wonderful moms group. And I reached out, quite honestly, because the gas pipes burst at this school, and I don't even know how to get fast from DC to Gaithersburg. So I had to reach out and I said, can someone just please go pick up my kids? I trust whoever it is, but just let me know who you're gonna be and let me know where you live. But it's gonna take us about my husband lived, we were on Mass Avenue building then. My husband worked in Georgetown, and it was gonna take us a while to get there. And they were just out in the streets waiting for this gas leak. So my wonderful friend now, I did not know her then, but she's one of my dearest now, picked up my kids and took them to her house. And we hurried over there as fast as we could. And I got there, and Chinita opened the door. And I didn't even really know Chinita, except that she worked here, and I knew of her name, and I've seen her, and I think even that day I saw her, and it's like, hey. But she's opening the door where my kids are supposed to be. And I just look at her, and she was like, hey, girl. And I was like, why do you have my kids? I don't know you like that. And so I just stared at her and kind of cocked my head, and she just stared at me, and we just sat in silence for a little bit at the door, and she finally just said, girl, you'll figure it out later, just come in and get your kids. And she opened the door, and there were my kids, and I was still dumbfounded, but I ran to go get my kids who were in this gas pipe, and it turns out, of course, that my dear friend and Chinita were sister-in-laws, and I had no idea, but it was our true introduction to each other, and stayed there for the next hour or so, just talking and playing with my kids, and became kindred souls and spirits since, and then working together on Morning Edition. There is no one who could make 8 hours in the middle of the night go faster than Chinita L. Anderson. If anyone has access to the NPR Tumblr Overheard on the Overnight, half of those are from her, and they're hilarious. She was a joy to sit next to. She was a joy to work with. She kept it lively. She kept it moving. She kept it hilarious. And even when she got sick and we went through what we went through, she was still just giving her all and just had the best spirit at work and through it all. And she just lived a life beginning and end, that was really to be admired. One of the things I loved about Chinita, we're going to listen actually to one of the things I loved about Chinita, but I admired so much and adored so much and really envied in some ways how just unapologetically feminist she was, unapologetically Black she was. It was who she was. She loved herself. She loved who she was. And we're going to listen to a little of her pilot podcast that she produced that kind of summarizes all that.
Welcome to
Okay.
Sorry.
Talking weird.
Talking weird. Your microphone on.
Talking Weird with Chinita L. Anderson. I think for me, when I saw the words Black girls are from the future, literally there was this surge of emotion. And I was like, yes. Because I think from my experience, where I came from, growing up in the Midwest, growing up in a working class family, having to fight for like a quality education, and where I've been able to go, traveling around the world, living in Japan, living in London, having a master's degree. It was almost as if, as a kid, I knew that there was a future. I knew that I had a future, and the Black community had been working to make that happen. And it's almost like my ancestors who were enslaved, I know they had to have these dreams about a different life. And I feel like we literally are the manifestation of these Black and brown people who had these dreams for us. Like it's like in the 1860s, they could see in the future. And what they saw was us. So that's my relationship to Black girls are from the future. This like that is, it's truth. That's basically what it's always been for me. For you, did it feel like truth?
So hard to hear her voice, but so beautiful and so Chinita. We have a wonderful program. One thing I did want to mention, and for those, I can't be the only one who thought this. Chris mentioned her love for the royals. And I think it's no coincidence that the week after her passing, this wedding happens. That was, if there's anyone who knew, was watching, had it timed and recorded and everything, it was Chinita. But that wedding particular, my gosh, it's like Chinita was right there on the couch with me. And I was cracking up because I know she was going to have so many comments and so much to say. So not only her love for the royals, but all the heritage that was in that wedding that shocked so many of us, but kept us tweeting and live blogging through the whole thing. Chinita would have had so much to say about that wedding. And it was a reminder to me that we're going to have those moments where Chinita shows up, because she certainly showed up with me that day, and we had a good time watching that wedding together. So we've got a wonderful program, a lot of people who want to keep saying wonderful things. A couple of people coming up next. We've got Renita Jablonski, who's another coworker and friend of ours on Morning Edition. And Melissa Thayer and Melissa Chin will come up after that. And then Kyle Shepard will come up and speak.
Hi, my name's Renita, and I'm going to say something quickly at first on behalf of somebody who couldn't be here, and that is my 4-year-old daughter, Zosha, who adored Chinita. And after her service in Cincinnati the next morning, she was crying in the hotel room, and I asked her what was wrong, and she said, "You didn't let me speak." And I said, "Well, what would you have said?" She said, "Well, I would have told them that she loved Hello Kitty. I would have told them that she loved when I played my electric guitar for her, and that she knew a lot about the cartoon Arthur. And that Zosha knew Chinita her whole life, which is also true." I've actually already stood here once, having the honor to speak about Chinita, and that was about 4 years ago, when she was awarded NPR's Spark and Impact Award for Extraordinary Employees. And she had come back for the afternoon ceremony after an overnight shift. And our colleague, Tania went, there she is. She, over and over, the entire week leading up to this, said, "You better be there, Chinita. You better wake up, get dressed, and be there." She arrived in a blue plaid dress and a wreath of flowers around her head. And everybody was accepting their awards, either their glass trophy, their hardware, or their certificate, and sitting down. Chinita came up, took the mic, and gave an acceptance speech. And she held court for a while. Being around her meant being inspired, whether it was sitting next to her at work. She used to sit directly to my left in our old building, right behind me here at 1111. Whether we were at brunch, whether we were sitting a couple blocks away at the Kaiser Medical Center awaiting a transfer for a hospital. Even then, and especially then. And it was during those times that she would talk about how she couldn't feel sorry for herself because of the life she had led, that it was exactly what she had dreamed up when she was a little girl in Cincinnati. And she would tell me how when she was 13 or 14 years old, she would, after school, have a phone book in front of her, and she would flip through it. She wasn't too challenged at her current school, and she would call private schools of all kinds. No matter the denomination, she wanted the best, and she was looking for information, as she often was. And that led her to eventually seeing an ad in the Cincinnati Enquirer, which was advertising its admissions test. It was one of the top schools in the region. She called, she got the information, she told her mom. Her mom said, "Okay, here's the $25 for the fee to take the test, and let's figure out the 2 bus routes that you need to get there." She got in with a scholarship. And Chinita was driven to treat people the way she wanted to be treated. That was another passion of hers. She wanted to be seen, and she let other people know that they were seen. She was always kind and always forthright, which isn't something people are always prepared for. Something happened at work yesterday that made a lot of friends who witnessed it shout, "Oh my God, Chinita would be freaking out." When I went home, my husband said, "You would have called Chinita before you called me." And he was right. So Dave Chappelle ended up being in the building yesterday. And he was incredibly gracious and taking photos with people. And I happened to see him as I was coming over to edit some audio for last night's All Things Considered. And I said, "Oh, I'm from Ohio," which is where he lived. And I shook his hand and I said, "My name is Renita." And then he did that Chappelle thing where he kind of looks, and he starts looking around and he said, "I hope this is okay for me to say, but that is a Black woman's name." And until that very moment, the only other person who had said that, at least directly, to my face, was Chinita. When we first started working together, she approached my desk and said, "Can I talk to you?" And I thought I had done something wrong. We hadn't really chatted much beyond work stuff, scripts, and what we needed to do to get the show on the air. I said, "Sure." And she said, "Okay." And she kind of bent in and she said, "Do you know you have a Black girl's name?" And I nodded, and she stepped away very slowly. And later, I heard that she was telling everybody this when I first came to work with her. She was authentic in everything she did, and I think that's one of her biggest gifts, that example. And it's affected all of us who had the immense pleasure of being her colleague. We're not the same because of her. She's going to keep living through the stories we pitch, the way we treat one another, and the decisions that we make outside of this building. I found some words that she wrote in November of 2014 on her blog after she died. This is a partial list. She wrote, "Have drink with your friends, fight for that promotion, eat more green vegetables, do things that make your soul sing, arrange more trips with your friends, speak your truth, dance around the house naked, tell the important people in your life that you love them. Remember that love is a verb."
Hi, we're Melissa Squared. I'm also very short, so I can't. Okay, if I can't make it through, I have it recorded as well. So thank you. Thanks. Let's hope. All right. I don't know where to start in describing Chinita or in figuring out what I want to say here today. So many of us will remember her varied interests and the time we spent with her. But when I think of Chinita, I think about how much she encouraged others to go after their dreams and passions. She went after hers, making her lists, doing her research, devising her plans, doing and achieving the things that made her happy. She made her art and shared her voice with the world, but she always wanted others to do the same. Chinita saw into the very core of who you wanted to be and asked why you weren't there yet. And though some of her stories are still untold, she would want us to continue telling ours. If Chinita were with us today, she'd be asking you, what are you passionate about? What are you working on? What are you doing to make it happen? Chinita would tell you, the world is ready for your story, and no one else will tell it for you.
You gotta live it up. That's what Chinita would always say. And she did just that. She was bold and fearless. Chinita knew how to make her dreams a reality. Living in London and Florence, teaching in Japan where she fell in love with Hello Kitty, and traveling the world. When she decided she wanted to become a playwright, she studied her craft and attacked it fiercely, and we all got to watch her art come to life. But at the core of it all, Chinita knew who her people were, her friends and her family. She would talk about her family often, like how excited she was to take her mom, Sarah, to Paris so that they can indulge in French pastries, or keeping us updated on the latest accomplishments of her niece and nephew, Princess Zora and AJ. She also knew the value of her friends. Whether they were across the town or across the pond in another continent, she always made time to keep in touch. What I will miss most is simply our long talks. It didn't matter where we were, in her brother Eugene's basement, or on one of our many crazy road trips with Melissa Thaler.
I'm the only one who can drive.
We use her for her car, don't tell her that. We would talk for hours and never run out of things to say. And that's because Chinita truly cared. She cared about you as a person and listened to every detail you told her. She gave advice when needed and would often bluntly tell you her opinion with no filter whether you wanted it or not. But that's what I loved. She always kept it real. You see, Ms. World didn't just earn her name by traveling. She was the world to us. And she continues to inspire us to live it up like she did every day. So Chinita, I hope you're relaxing on a beach with a frosty, fruity drink in your hand, under an umbrella, because I don't want you to get sunburned, or that you're at an onsen hot spring, which you love so much. I wish we could discuss the royal weddings, because girl, I know you got opinions. And lastly, I hope you're making plans to still take those driving lessons because I know you still have a lot of places to go and things to see. Thanks.
I'm Kyle. I met Chinita as soon as I arrived in Japan. She was the representative to welcome us. And I was immediately struck by how poised, articulate, funny, and friendly she was. And I spent that whole week in Tokyo hoping I would get to be friends with her over the next year. And I did. I learned a lot about Chinita and many, many strengths that I think everyone in here is aware of that she had. I will say foreign language acquisition was not one of Chinita's strengths. But nothing as insignificant as a language would get in the way of Miss World getting to know someone she liked. One of my fondest memories in Japan was introducing Chinita to a friend of mine who spoke no English. Chinita immediately rattling away in English, my friend responding in Japanese. I don't know what they thought they were talking about, but the next thing I knew, I turned around and they were going off grocery shopping together. I don't remember what they came home with later that night, but I do remember that they were grinning ear to ear. My friendship with Chinita really developed in the years after Japan, in large part because she never missed a birthday party. It didn't matter how many overnight buses she would have to take and when she'd get to her shift again, she would be there no matter where it was. My favorite Chinita memory happened at my 30th birthday at a cabin in the Catskills. So I was outside and I noticed a strange car had arrived, so I just went to investigate. Now, I'm going to set this scene. This is an isolated cabin off a long, dark dirt road. There is no Wi-Fi anywhere, and this is not a place where you would just accidentally find yourself. The inside was completely gayified with pink and sparkly decorations on every surface. Now, picture Chinita with a pamphlet in her hand, staring at two very nervous-looking women from the Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall. Chinita assisted these well-intentioned damsels in distress to the nearest exit, promptly shut the door, exclaimed, "Oh, hell no," ripped up the literature, and apologized. "They were white people. I thought they were your friends." I love this memory because it encapsulates Chinita's friendliness, her humor, and her trademark ability to be blunt. Chinita continued to evolve over the years that I knew her, and I do believe that when she found her calling as a playwright, she blossomed in a whole new way. I could stand here and I could talk about so many of her qualities, her powerful plays, the deep love she had for her family, but selfishly, I want to attempt to convey the kind of friend she was to me. I could always rely on provocative, erudite conversation and deep belly laughs. I could always tell Chinita when she was driving me crazy, and be honest in a way that for others it can be so difficult. Chinita saw me through many tumultuous relationships, never let me feel judged, and screamed with enthusiasm when I went to start a new career. We are not gifted with that many friendships like that in this life. It was one of those friendships where we would both unabashedly end our visits declaring, "I love you." There are people one encounters whose presence just continually enriches one's own life. They're the opposite of the chi suckers. These are the life force givers, and Chinita was a life force giver. The world is richer for her presence, and I'm a much, much better person for having known her. But Chinita would not approve of me ending on that note. So I will end with one of the 3 Japanese words Chinita would use, occasionally correctly. Let's go. Onwards. Ikimashou.
So as we just heard, one of the great things to watch on Morning Edition was to see Chinita blossom with her playwright. I remember when she started, not started writing because she'd been doing it, but when she started submitting, and when she started getting her grants, and when she got the green light for the first production. And it was so incredible to watch her grow in this way. And she was always such a rock on the show, and she delivered. She came to that pitch table with stuff we would never think of, and we got it on the air. And she was always attuned to so many different things around the world, and brought a lot of diverse voices, lenses, craziness, whatever it was, to the table, and some kind of way would be able to make it happen. So we knew she was a great colleague, but it was really wonderful to watch her turn into this beautiful playwright. So what we're going to see now is a scene from one of her plays, We Are Punk Rock. We've got Pooja Chawla, Kelly Renee Armstrong, and Star Johnson.
Before we get into the reading, I would like to say a few words. Oh. One sec. Go ahead. Okay. So, I'm Pooja. I met Chinita in May of 2012 in a playwriting class at Theater Lab. Little did I know she would become my soul sister. As co-producers of the show Bedroom Mirrors at Capitol Fringe 2013, we discovered a deep bond between us, one that included Indian culture, theater, and spirituality. We talked endlessly about our dreams and what we wanted to manifest in our lives. Last summer, when I saw Chinita, I shared a technique with her called manifestation monologue, something that I do to envision my future. And little did I know she had gone and written one for herself until I went to Cincinnati a couple weeks back. It's over there if you want to read the full manifestation monologue, but I'm going to read just a portion. It says, Chinita is sitting near the front with her family and friends. She is dressed to slay, showing off ample cleavage. Announcer. We now return to the Pulitzer Prize for Dramatic Arts. I'm excited to announce the winner is Chinita L. Anderson. Chinita. I can't believe they chose me. It's so nice to finally be seen as my brilliance rewarded. This has been a whirlwind. Just reading that, honestly, gave me goosebumps, and it felt like completion. Because after her diagnosis, I worried that Chinita would struggle to pursue her dream, but it was quite the opposite. Her fervor to finish her full-length play was more alive than ever. She worked at NPR and wrote, I don't know how she did it. She was insane. Here is an excerpt from her play, We Are Punk Rock, read by Kelly Armstrong as Mama Charles and Star Johnson as Lauren.
Are you happy with your current life path?
Yes.
Well, I'm not.
You aren't happy?
I'm content with my life, darling Lauren, but I'm not happy with your current direction. You know the checks that I've been giving you are drawn from my family's trust.
I know, and I'm very appreciative.
The trust was started by my aunts, Laura and Nella Johnson, who had to forsake their own educations in order to help put my father through Meharry Medical College.
That's amazing.
That little savings account helped send me to Antioch College, where I became the first woman in my family to earn a degree. My aunts didn't sacrifice their dreams, so in 1994, you could live the life of a rock and roll star.
I don't have anything to do with rock and roll, and I'm not living any lifestyle. I'm just living.
You are living a life of leisure on the backs of my aunts. I can't support you if you decide to continue on this path.
I work at the law firm and I play with the band at night. I don't see the problem.
Your great-great-grandparents were slaves. Have you ever thought about that? About their lives?
Sometimes, but we're not living in slavery times.
At the end of the Civil War, my great-great-grandmother walked from South Carolina to Tennessee looking for her sisters and brothers. Walked.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that they had to endure that.
I don't want you to be sorry, darling. I want you to make something of your life. Stop playing around and make some choices that will put you on the road to success.
I am successful.
At what?
At being me.
Well, that's what's wrong with your generation. They don't want to be anything except themselves. What does that mean? We marched for you. We endured police beatings for you. Do you know what it feels like to have a fire hose aimed at you? Do you know the power of water? It is time for you to get serious about your life. This is the last check that you will receive from my aunt's trust. You need to show me that you appreciate the sacrifices and work that brought about your current lifestyle.
Huh?
Don't huh me. You need to get serious about your life, Lauren. You are wasting it, and I can't have a hand in that.
It's my life. Not your life, my life.
I know that, but I don't have to support it.
I have 2 jobs.
You were not raised to be a paralegal.
It's just a day job.
We are not the kind of people that have day jobs. Now you need to pick a real profession like medicine or law and start pursuing it. Or marry a suitable young man like Jonathan or Dexter King.
I don't want to marry Aunt Coretta's son.
You're only 9 years younger than him, and you've got the brains to run the King Center.
I wasn't born to be some man's wife. This isn't the 1950s.
Of course it isn't. Because if it was the 1950s, neither of us could sit down and be served in this establishment.
You can't do this to me. You can't give me things and let me get comfortable with them and just take them away.
It's the price of the ticket, baby girl.
So you can see what themes were very important to her. Growing up in Cincinnati, being a Black woman, and one's dreams. Now we're going to move into a song that is, in a sense, written by Chinita, so to speak. The night before Chinita passed away, my sister, who is a singer-songwriter who's met Chinita many times, who lives in Los Angeles, she was about to go hang out with her friends, and she felt called to write. So she stayed at home and spent some time with her keyboard, and a song came through. She wrote me a text, and it said in these exact words, I don't know how to explain this, but I feel like Chinita's soul is visiting me. The next morning, because she lives in Los Angeles and I live in DC, and I woke up to this message. And that day, I had heard official word that Chinita had passed. And when I was in Ohio, I played the song for Chinita's family, which will be performed by Wendell Eugene Anderson.
I'll be new in the morning, no more hurt in my heart. I'll be free with the sunrise, taken into your arms. I got wings like an angel, I could fly through the dark. Leave these burdens behind me and go back to the stars. Back to the stars. Back to the stars. Time has changed my direction. I am pain-free and clear. Tiny lights of reflection show I used to be here. With my wings like an angel, I can fly through the dark. Left my burdens behind me, soaring back to the stars. 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 I'll be new in the morning, no more hurt in my heart. I'll be free with the sunrise, taken into your arms. I could fly like an angel, I could fly through the dark. Leave these burdens behind me and go back to the stars. 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 Back to the stars.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Now we have a couple more speakers coming through, friends and coworkers from NPR. We've got Winona Wynn and Joanna Owens. Then we'll have Denise Marie Autumn Guerra, which I should know since I've been working with her for 5 years. Did I get it right, Denise? Nope. Okay. And then Renee Montaigne will come up.
Come on, Cousin Joe. For you guys who don't know, this is Cousin Joe. It's nearly impossible to sum up someone like Chinita in one word, but there is something that comes close, and it's intrepid. She was fearless, she was adventurous, and by extension, self-determined. She didn't need anyone to tell her who she was or where she belonged because she'd already declared it to the world. And everybody already knows she's Miss World 5000, just so you know. In a time when questions about who can navigate public spaces has become a question, Chinita's life is a shining example of loving, passionate, intrepid presence that does not retreat or beg your indulgence. You didn't stand in Chinita's way, and she always had a plan, if those who know her, because she's a planner. Woe be it to those who weren't down with the plan. Just ask the poor French doctor who resisted releasing her from a hospital in Marseille. That was something to behold. She first tried to elicit his sympathy by grieving for her dead grandfather, I think, who died before she was born. And when that didn't work, she threatened him with the American consulate. He finally relented. And Joe and I found out, because we were both dumb enough to go on this trip, we were, we just found out we'd been hoodwinked and bamboozled. It was an amazing experience, but we didn't know that there had been some reasons why maybe this wasn't the greatest idea. But we found out she'd been released from the hospital when we received frantic text demanding, "Where's my bra?" And that night we went out because she insisted, we can still do stuff. And I remember her, there's a great picture of her wearing a t-shirt that said, "I only came here to find a husband." You guys. When we asked her about her ploy to using her grandfather for her own ends, she replied, "Well, he never did anything for me." I think he owes me one. She was a fierce supporter, as well as being brutally honest with her opinions. She helped me grow as a person and as a writer, and she believed in me even when I couldn't believe in myself. Her last lessons to me were putting yourself first, be present, declare your wants and worth. She's a big believer in knowing your worth. The brevity of time and the lusciousness of life, and you'd understand this if you'd ever witnessed her drinking a Belgian peach limback. You'd understand, and those who know her, Chinita inspired so much love. She was audacious, she was curious, she was passionate, she was present, she was intrepid.
This is an open love letter to my friend. So, dearest cousin, I'm so grateful that when we met in Japan, that we decided to become not friends, but family. From the beginning, it was clear that you were always going to be my hero. Your laser focus and grit to achieve your dreams, your unwavering determination, and your love for your family and friends. You won. You always won. Just look at your achievements. Sarah Lawrence, tick. Studying abroad, tick. Working in Japan, tick. Acquiring an Irish cousin, tick. Working at NPR, tick. Owning your own home, tick. Becoming a playwright, tick. Slaying it, tick. For all of those reasons and so many more, you have always been and will always be my forever hero, my constant cheerleader, and my eternal friend. I absolutely love you, cousin, and I always will. I will always honor you by attempting to emulate you in all I do. If I become a fraction of the woman that you have been, I can be proud of myself. And I'm so glad that we never left anything unsaid. And she would kill me if I left it at that. So, did I ever tell you about the time that Chinita thought I was black? I'm not sure if that's the story for now or for later. Oh, but sure, now that I'm here, I'll tell you. So, when we all arrived in Tokyo, we got a list of people that would be going to Toyama. So my name is Owens, and as far as she was concerned, I was going to be black, but she was, she was surprised when we met. So we weren't the black community, but instead we were the Irish black community. So, and that's why we're cousins, clearly. Okay, so...
Hi, I'm Denise. I really feel bad because I feel like I met Chinita a little too late. But when I first came to NPR, my meeting with her was with somebody who said, "You have to meet this person, she's just like you." And little did I know how intrepid and adventurous a spirit she was, because I have these thoughts where I'm like, I'm gonna go somewhere. And I told her one day, "Chinita, I wanna go to Iceland." And she's like, I'm going with you. I'm there. And I'm like, okay, great. Let's plan this. And she took on the planning like from day one. She's like, gotta create a Facebook group. We gotta do this. We gotta invite all these people. Okay. And then she had like a list of all these things to do. And I always find that when you plan trips like these, you know, there are people who are down to go and there are people who waver. And she was one who's just like, I'm doing it. And from day one, she was all in it. And the group of people we met, we were all pretty much strangers who decided to just say yes on a random trip in the middle of November to Iceland. And when she came, she introduced herself, and she's like, I'm a playwright, and just kind of let you know, my plays are about sex, and and I'm here to learn about punk rock in Iceland, and you know, I know my body, and I know what I'm capable of, so, you know, I'm not going to be climbing a mountain with you guys, but I'm happy to just, you know, do what I need to do. And so we were very aware of that. And so, but little did we know that she was really down to do whatever we had it planned, because there was this one day where we really wanted to go to a hot springs spa in the middle of nowhere that we saw online in a blog. And so we parked this small car in the middle of Iceland in this field. It's just literally one road in a field, and we see smoke coming out of the road, and we park and realize that, oh, this place, you have to walk to it. You have to walk across a lava field to this little hole in the ground to bathe, I guess. And Chinita's like, oh, hell no. Like, she's like, I have to get my bathing suit on, you know. And we're like, okay, no worries, Chinita, we'll check it out. And so we hop across some rocks and some things, and look back, and Chinita's in her bathing suit, like carrying her stuff, ready to go with us. And it is cold. It is really cold. But we were ready to try this adventure to go to this hot springs. And we get there, and turns out it's only meant for 2 people. It's like a manhole, and there are already 2 people in there. So we go back to the car. She's just like, oh my God. We're like, okay, let's just keep going. We're already this far away. Let's see if there's something else. Because for some reason we thought there are hot tubs everywhere in Iceland. We end up, it turned out to be an 8-hour ride to the northern fjords of the tip of this country. And for some reason, we found like a small town of like 30 people, and they have these free hot tubs by the water, different temperatures. And it was probably 11 at night, and all of us, there's 5 of us, we all got into the hot tub, with our bathing suits, and it was snowing. And right in front of us was the ocean. And I remember watching Chinita, and she was looking over the side of the hot tub and just looking out into this open water. It was nighttime, snowing. She looked tired, but she looked calm, and it felt that she was so at peace, and she looked happy. And it would be one of my favorite memories of hers, being that she would go on this trip. She would go with us to, not knowing where we were going, honestly, to some random place in Iceland. And to be in this moment with her and to experience that. And throughout the trip, we spent time up all night. It was during the time when the Washington Post dropped a story about NPR. And we talked about everything. We talked about so many things. And I remember not sleeping because of all the things that we discussed. And not to mention, there was a feminist rock band that she somehow befriended in Iceland and had drinks with and talked about her play and how in her, I don't know, they were talking for hours at a bar. And she just made so many friends there. But I will miss her, and I will miss seeing her, look into that ocean. And I love you, Chinita.
Hello, I'm Renee, and I just have to say I wrote this down, and I'm going to read it, and I'm apologizing in advance because I vowed I just wasn't going to cry, at least in the first 30 seconds. When I was here in D.C., and when I come here in D.C., you come in at 3:30 in the morning, and I'm not here all the time. I'm based out in Los Angeles, but I'm here a lot of the time. And the one thing about coming into Morning Edition in the early hours is there's not so many people around, and the first person that I would see, that I would lay eyes on, would always be Chinita. Right? But actually, I would always be seeing the back of Chinita because she was bent over on her computer, keeping the flow, going into all that it took to get the show on the road. And so I would sort of come up on her like surprised, but she was never really surprised. I'd say, hey, Chinita. And she would turn around with that dazzling smile of hers, and she would say, good morning, Renee. And no matter how exhausted I would look at her, and it was like, I can't be exhausted. And if I was kind of crabby or something, which you can be when you get up on those hours for years and years and years, you couldn't be that when you looked at Chinita. And not just looked in her face, that was enough, but just looked at the whole person that she was, who I came to know. We've been hearing that she lived 2 lives, and one of them I spent most of the time with, that one life of hers when we were vampires together, doing Morning Editions overnight. The other that I don't know that so many people at NPR knew, but her dear friends knew here and everywhere, that she was a woman of the theater. And, I'm not really on Facebook even to this day, but just a couple of family members mainly. But when Chinita was doing her first play back at the Capitol Fringe, she was producing her first play. I mean, I actually had no alternative but to go onto Facebook because I couldn't talk to her and be with her if I knew this, if I didn't just know what she was doing and how it was working. Because I discovered and that this meant so much to her, but also because she was becoming, how did she put it? Something like a world traveler theater producer. And she was getting ready to put that on her card. And the thing that was funny was we never slept, of course, on Morning Edition, or it seemed like we didn't, but of course we did in the daytime. But Chinita appeared to never sleep, I discovered when I went on Facebook. Ever. I mean, one time she was in New York to see some plays, and this was so big for her. And that really was plays. I mean, she was like, I'm seeing a play today, I'm seeing a play tomorrow. But one thing that she wrote on Facebook that I saw, and I'll just read it to you because it's just easier to imagine her saying this. Should be sleeping, but stayed up to buy internet domain names for my upcoming professional website. And then a little snap of the domain thing that she was looking at. And then she said, but got to go to bed now because I'm seeing another play tomorrow. So clearly the next year after her Fringe Festival or Capitol Fringe play had been on the previous summer, it was a no-brainer when I was I came to interview the head of the Globe Theatre because the Globe, Shakespeare's London Globe, had taken a world tour where they took Shakespeare plays to every single country in the world, which was a lot of work. And so I was going to go see the performance in Washington, D.C. And of course, who else could possibly be my guest than Chinita? And it was going to be a real fun thing because we were doing it on work time, right? And we were going to go to lunch, which sort of neither of us did. You think I might have done that once in a while, but no, not really. And so, here I was with a woman who could talk August Wilson like nobody's business. Favorite of mine, I've seen and actually interviewed him myself years and years ago with, never mind, I don't even remember which play it was, but one of his early ones, when I was a freelancer, as a matter of fact. She, as we see, not only produced plays, wrote plays, but knew everything that was happening here in Washington and all the up-and-coming stuff. Of course, Chinita also discovered Hamilton. Thank you. At least as far as NPR is concerned, nobody had ever heard of it. She talked about it at the morning meeting, and we did it, thank God, because we were on the case. So no one was more surprised than I then when over our drinks, our little cocktails at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it emerged that Chinita had, she had sort of stars in her eyes when we came out. She told me she had never seen a Shakespeare play. I mean, she'd read it, but she had never actually gone to one. So I am very proud to say that I actually introduced her to something because for the rest, Chinita was a living lesson in how to live every day as if it was your last. I mean, how to be creative and self-directed without being selfish, to have your eyes wide open to the pain and injustice in this world while still being able to see it as a wondrous place, full of possibility. Chinita was a really good match for Shakespeare. And Renita, you mentioned the flower, a garland in her hair. She had a lot of looks, right? But that was by far my favorite when she would show up with that. And it was like Midsummer Night's Dream. That was her, right? She also had quite a bit of, on other days and in other ways, The Tempest. And of The Tempest, we are the stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with sleep. After Chinita's diagnosis, she simply did not put sleep on her calendar. And I kind of imagine, I don't know for sure, that she said, why start now? And just indicative of how she spent that last time. Last September, she was looking on Facebook. I know this. I would have loved to have gone, joined, but traveling companions to an island, as a matter of fact, Jamaica, and to Treasure Beach, the Calabash, International Literary Festival, which she'd been to before and she loved. Now, like everyone said, she had booked a room, for the 2018 festival. It was the very detailed description of, now this room had 4 single beds, and she had outlined how 4 single beds could be done with 2 people, what that would cost, 3 people, what that would cost, 4 people, what that would cost everybody. And it got more and more attractive. Besides the fun, it got cheaper and cheaper. But one of the things she did on that particular Facebook entry was she promised this thing. She said, I am definitely going if I'm physically able and if I don't have playwriting career conflicts. Nobody knew better than her that there was another if. And that festival was last weekend. Chinita wasn't there in body, but we all know she was there in spirit. And I am honored to think that this evening I'm among the people that she will be looking down upon and feeling like, basically we will all live forever because of what she showed us about what it means to live. Thank you.
We are now going to hear from the family, both in words, from my dear friend Eugene Anderson, Chinita's brother, and another selection, I Hope You Dance, by Wendell Eugene Anderson Sr.
This is. I did this once in Cincinnati at the service we had. It was very difficult, but I wanted to speak to you all here, her friends and family, so I'm trying to keep it together. She is my only sister. I've known her my whole life. And so all these things that people are saying, I saw them develop over the years. What's funny is hearing her NPR colleagues talk about the spark, the excitement, the smile in the wee hours of the night. So as typical siblings, we have a different type of loving, honest relationship. And you sprinkle in that little dose of Chinita's bluntness, sprinkle in a little bit of my abrasiveness, and you had an interesting mixture. But what's funny is, you always see this excitement and this energy, and sometimes she would come over after work because she would want to be there occasionally to see the kids, her niece and nephews, and AJ when they got home. And so sometimes if I was home, I would greet her at the door and she would say, "Don't talk, I'm tired, I've been up all night. I'll talk to you after I have a nap." And I would just close the door, and that was that. I would be remiss if I didn't say that what you all who got to know her saw in her, a big part of that is attributable to our amazing mother. And I just want to acknowledge that, because sometimes it's easy to not realize just how important someone's mother can be. But what you have to understand, and some of you who've heard the stories about us growing up, is how I like to describe our world as tiny. We lived in this little 2-bedroom apartment in Cincinnati, and it didn't stop Chinita from having these big dreams. We shared a room really until high school. And I remember as a kid, she had these posters of London on the wall. She was a big fan of Musical Youth, they were from the UK, and a huge fan of Boy George and Culture Club, right? And trust me when I tell you this, nobody else in the West End of Cincinnati, which for those who don't know, that's the hood, okay? Nobody else listened to Boy George and Culture Club. But Chinita proudly did and loved that group. And it fostered in her this fascination with the UK and this desire to want to go there. And my mom always encouraged that when Chinita was looking for a private school, because for her, she understood that for her to be able to achieve her dreams of traveling the world, that she had to get a good education, which meant a good high school and a good college, so that she could have a really good career. So as a kid, like, it clicked, she got it. But the educational opportunities that were in front of her, for her, weren't fulfilling that because she wasn't challenged at the middle school that she was at. So it would have been easy for my mom to just say, you'll be fine, don't worry. But she didn't. She supported Chinita's quest for a great education and helped to make those dreams come true. So I just want to say thank you, and you know, we both love you so much. You meant everything to her, so thank you, Mom. Two final things. It's worth noting as I look across and see so many different friends of Chinita's from different settings. So when she first moved here, I was already living here. My wife and I moved here in 2001 from Charlottesville, Virginia. And, you know, she came here with an interest in getting into the media. She had completed her master's in journalism. And so I introduced her to some people some friends of mine who I thought she might, you know, find interesting. And so she got to be friends with Lisa Fanning and Kaylin and Gigi and Kim, just to name a few. But at one point she complained to me, as she often would to me, that most of her friends in DC were my friends. She didn't have her friends. And what was funny about that was that I don't know if she appreciated the fact that these were like the only people I wanted to know. I didn't want to know any more people. But as you all are a testament to, she did. Because she loved people. She loved different types of people who had different stories and different experiences. And so she went on this quest of claiming DC for her own. She got into NPR and making it a place where she didn't just fit in, but became an integral part of what the place was. And so seeing all of you here really says to me, it's just proof of that desire to get to know different people and to make them feel welcomed. So I thank you all for being here. And just in closing, I thank NPR, I thank Kenya, Tonia, all the folks who, you know, reached out to us immediately upon hearing about her passing and said that they wanted to host a memorial in DC, which we were really pleased about, because we knew that, you know, she had a lot of family in Cincinnati, but she had created this whole other world. on the East Coast, from DC all the way up to New York and across the Atlantic. And so we knew that DC would be an opportunity not only for NPR family to remember her, but an opportunity for her other family and friends to remember her. So I just want to, from the bottom of my heart, my family, thank Kenya and the NPR family for having this. Thank you.
I hope you never lose your sense of wonder. It says on. You get your fill to eat, but always keep that hunger. May you never take one single breath for granted. God forbid love ever leave you empty-handed. I hope you still feel small when you stand beside the ocean. Whenever one door closes, I hope one more opens. Promise me that you'll give faith a fighting chance. And when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you never fear those mountains in the distance. Never settle for the path of least resistance. Living might mean taking chances, but they're worth taking. Loving might be a mistake, but it's worth making. Don't let some hell-bent heart leave you bitter. When you come close to selling out, reconsider. Give the heavens above more than a fighting chance. And when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you still feel small when you stand beside the ocean. Whenever one door closes, I hope one more opens. Promise me that you'll give faith a fighting chance. And when you get the chance to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance.
Well, I was doing great up until that. We are coming to a close. I want to thank everyone for being here and for saying the words and for just helping us remember. Selfishly for me, this has been a closure that I've needed. When I heard and when I talked to Gace and Eugene over the weekend and knew that it was coming, I remember the day Chinita told me at work, and then we told the staff, and we started, and she started. And then for those of you who remember at the table, she couldn't do it. And she said, "Can you do it?" And I thought, God, this is going to be tough. I don't know how she's going to get through this. And God, did she get through it. Slayed it like a gangster. And we would check and the food and the hospitals and the drives and she was great, and she was great. And when she left finally work, I was just like, God, thank God, because I don't know how, I can't work the overnight normal. I don't know how you're doing this. And I was so glad that she went home. And she looked so good when she got home, and she sounded so good. And those were my WotC days, so I still had a life. And we still talked and communicated. And, girl, what happened? What's going on there? I heard such and such all the time. And then I went back to Morning Edition, and I have no life. And my mom, who I probably usually talk to 2 times a day, I talk to maybe once a week if I'm lucky. My best friend there that I barely spoken to in the past 6 months. So when I heard it was coming, I felt so guilty because I just hadn't talked to her in so long. And it was really hard for me to accept it because she had been so great. And it didn't feel like there was a need to check in as much because she was doing so great. And so this has been great selfishly for me because I've been able to own that and say it out loud. And, as the family knows, when these things happen, you just go through the motions. I had to get the note out to the staff, and I had to let people know, and you just kind of push through. And I wasn't really able to experience her and her passing until the royal wedding because I knew she had so much to say, and until now. So I thank you all for being here. And I know that I can release that because I know that she knows. And I know that she knows all of you were absolutely there for her. So thank you so much. There's some of her favorite foods outside. Macaroni and cheese and fried chicken and cauliflower. It's not green vegetables, but it's vegetables. So please enjoy and mingle and meet the family, and let's just keep embracing and enjoying Chinita's life.